without a doubt, the number one question that I have been getting in my DMs on Instagram since I announced this whole moving the farm again situation is, do we have 3 farms right now? And how the heck can we afford that? Super valid question. To answer the first one, yes, we technically have 3 different farm properties right now. We have our original 5-acre homestead, we have our current 10-acre homestead, and then we have our new 40-acre homestead. Our 5 and 10-acre homesteads are currently on the market. Do not plan to keep all 3 of them. But as far as how can we afford to have all 3 at once, I have always been very open about finances online. A lot about what I share on Instagram specifically is about generating income and building a homestead. So while it's definitely not anybody's business how we are affording to do this, I think it's definitely a valid question of concern for people since I have shared so openly about how we've been able to afford things in the past. Now, before I go into like the actual specifics of how we have structured or financed buying 3 different properties at the exact same time, I do want to share just a few tips on how to afford to homestead in general, because this is really what led us to the point now where we have 3 properties all at once. Because I think that is a hang up for a lot of people that desire to build a homestead or to live this lifestyle, is that it is financially demanding. You can bootstrap and use pallets and scrounge all you want, but you do need some money to be able to do this lifestyle. For the majority of our marriage, we have been a 1-income family. We've never made over 6 figures a year. So we didn't have a lot of capital to put into buying a property, buying animals, building infrastructure, all of that. And yet we still have. So I want to share what I feel like are really the 3 key tips to being able to afford to homestead, or even just build your homestead if you already are doing it. Because ultimately, these 3 things have been what led us to the opportunity, or really the position that we are at now with having 3 properties at once, even though that isn't the long-term goal. Tip number 1 is that we have always bought our properties off market. And what I mean by that is that we have bought them directly from the seller. They've never been listed for sale on the MLS, which if you are in America is the multiple listing service, meaning it's listed with a realtor. It goes into a huge database that is great for finding a lot of buyers if you are selling a property. The challenge with being on the MLS is that you're typically going to be listed at what the market value is for the property. Buying properties off market is kind of like garage selling, okay? You are getting a better deal, but you're having to work for it. You're having to hunt for it. You can't just walk up somewhere and instantly find what you're looking for, like if you were going to a store to buy something. Honestly, I could do an entire series about how to buy properties off market, but just to give you an idea, I would say that we have saved between $50,000 and $100,000 for every single property that we have bought off market. Big part of that is because there's no realtor fees involved for the seller, so they're willing to take a lower price because they're not having to pay realtor fees. There's also the convenience factor of them not having to clean up their house and do a bunch of showings and get pictures taken and have signs in their yard and have, just a lot of privacy is disrupted when you list your house for sale, and a lot of people don't want to deal with that. Now, the key thing that I want to note here, though, besides the fact that you are getting more property for less money when you buy it off market, on to then sell those properties, we have had more equity in them that we can then roll into the next property, which has allowed us to gradually kind of move up in homesteads that are worth more in value because we're building equity on each one. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 for affording to homestead is to use cash and to avoid debt as much as humanly possible. Now, this is obviously excluding your mortgage because most people aren't going to be able to pay for their house in cash. But besides maybe 2 different times we had a very small car payment, Tommy and I have not had much debt for the majority of our marriage. We don't own credit cards. I get a lot of flack for it, but I personally don't even have a credit score, and I've never needed one. I talk about this in my financially independent homesteading online program, but using debt to build your homestead, meaning using it to buy fencing or to buy animals or to buy a tractor, using debt to build your homestead completely negates the security that having a homestead gives you, right? Because having a homestead gives you a sense of security in providing your own food, your own heat, and a lot of your own resources. But if those resources are only possible as long as you can make payments to somebody, then it's a total wash security-wise. Now, I wanna say, like, we are not perfect by any means with our money, but not having credit cards and not using debt for the most part has been a really hard rule that we've stuck to from the beginning. It's been an essential element of our financial journey to building our homestead. Tip number 3, and this is not gonna be any surprise probably because I've mentioned it already, but the third recommendation I have is to build income streams from your homestead. We did not start out trying to be farmers. We did not start out trying to build homestead businesses. Homestead businesses for us happened naturally, kind of as a result of like wanting to be able to do more. I wanted to have a milk cow, but we couldn't afford it with our off-farm income. I wanted to have a greenhouse and to build a garden and an orchard, but we couldn't afford it. Off-farm income was only enough to support our family. It wasn't enough for extra. So I started building income streams off of our homestead very early on in our journey. And at this point, I've learned how to do it a lot more strategically and a lot better. But I can honestly say that building income streams and building businesses has been really one of the absolute best things that we ever did. It's totally catapulted our homesteading journey, and it's a big reason why we can afford to do what we're doing now. Okay, so quick recap. My 3 tips were to look for property off market so that you get a deal and that you can get some equity built in to roll into your next property. Number 2, avoid debt, pay for things in cash as much as possible. And number 3, build income streams from your property as you're building your property. If you're not sure how to do that, I will put a link in the description of this video to my Building Your Financially Independent Homestead program. It's an online course that talks all about how do you decide what to sell, how do you even do sales, how do you price things, how do you manage money, what are legal factors you need to consider, all of that stuff. If you're interested in generating money from your homestead, go check that course out. That has been everything that we have learned on building income from our homestead. So now let's finally talk about how can we afford to have 3 properties. And first answer I'm gonna give you is that we can't. We cannot afford to have 3 properties. We do not make enough money each year to financially qualify for the amount of mortgages that are between these 3 properties. However, part of being a homesteader is thinking outside of the normal system that society operates. Most people in society, when they buy a house, they are going to apply for a mortgage loan with a bank that is based on their W-2 income, right? And the bank will tell you how much they are comfortable loaning you based on your W-2 income. But what you have to realize is that there are a lot of other ways to finance things besides that method. You can use other things for leverage besides your W-2 income. Part of buying our 10-acre property was utilizing the equity that we have in our 5-acre property to qualify for the mortgage. Buying our 40-acre property was not done with a traditional loan. That property was negotiated purchase under a land contract. Now, the second part about financing, besides thinking out of the realm of like the normal way that people do things, really goes back to that 3rd tip I gave you about building income streams. We have been building income streams and building our business on our homestead for many, many years. Part of us building income streams over the past several years has not only given us income, but what it has given us is it's given us a track record. So when we wanted to buy that 40-acre property and we were maxed out on what we could personally qualify for based on our income or leverage based on our assets, we were able to leverage our track record so that somebody else could help finance it for us. Oh, don't get me wrong, like it's still a pretty uncomfortable situation to be in. being responsible for the payment of 3 different properties. And really everybody has a different level of comfort for that. We are at the point in our homesteading journey where we are actively building our farm and we are building our business. And the point that we are at in building those requires us to take a lot of risk and discomfort. So I'm not telling you to do exactly what we're doing. I'm telling you to look at your situation, look at what your goals are, talk to your spouse about where their comfort level is, and then make decisions that align with all of those things. I just wanted to share this because I think that there is a lot of influencers and YouTubers and people online that honestly are really freaking successful at what they do. They're making several 6 figures a year creating content, and that's amazing. And honestly, super excited for them, super proud of them, but that's not us. We're still not making 6 figures a year. We still have a very modest, normal income, but we've just shifted our thinking a lot and been very intentional about being strategic in how we do things. So I hope that gives a little bit of clarification to how we have 3 properties and how we can afford to homestead in general. If you guys have any more questions on this, then please put them down in the description below. Like I said, I think it's really important to talk about money. I think it's important to have discussions about finances. I think it's really important to talk about businesses, building homestead businesses and generating income for yourselves and not being 100% reliant on outside sources for income. Thank you guys for all your support. Talk to you next week.